Hey everyone, welcome back to Movie Matrix. Today, we've got something exciting, thrilling, mind-blowing lined up for you. So sit back, relax, and let's dive right in. James, 17, narrates his story. He believes he is a psychopath because he feels nothing, not joy, sadness, or anger. As a child, he never laughed at jokes, not even his father Phil's relentless dad jokes, which only irritated him. He often fantasized about punching Phil in the face. When James was 9, he deliberately put his hand into a deep fryer, hoping to feel something new. By 15, his disturbing curiosity escalated. He lured his neighbor's cat into the woods and killed it. Over time, he killed more animals, searching for any hint of emotion, but there was nothing. Now, at 17, James decides it's time to move beyond animals. He wants to kill a person. Maybe that will awaken something inside him. At school, James meets Alyssa. She's different, unpredictable, reckless, and she approaches him first. Alyssa has her own issues. Her mother remarried, and her stepfather, Tony, makes her uncomfortable. She often takes care of her two younger half-siblings, feeling like an outsider in her own home. She hasn't seen her real father, Leslie, since she was 8, but he never forgets her birthday. At school, Alyssa struggles to connect with others and resents people who blend in easily. One afternoon, a girl at school texts her instead of speaking directly. Annoyed, Alyssa confronts her. The girl shrugs it off. Enraged, Alyssa smashes the girl's phone and storms off. As she leaves, she notices James sitting alone and decides to talk to him. She mocks his skating skills. James watches her closely. He thinks she could be the perfect target. After school, Alyssa finds James sitting alone and assumes he was waiting for her. He plays along. She kisses him impulsively. They walk together. Alyssa mentions breaking her phone and points out they have no way to text. James, unfazed, tells her he doesn't have a phone either. Then, in his usual flat tone, he asks if she wants to go on a date. Alyssa agrees. At a local restaurant, Alyssa causes a scene, demanding a fucking spoon. The waitress scolds her for her language. Alyssa sarcastically asks for a big banana shit. Security is called. Alyssa storms out. James follows, realizing she's just as messed up as he is. Later, Alyssa invites herself to James's house. He's caught off guard, but sees it as an opportunity to carry out his plan. Inside, Alyssa comments on the many windows in the house. She notices a framed photo and asks about it. James tells her it's his mother. She's in Japan. Alyssa touches him inappropriately. James realizes she's obsessed with sex. In the kitchen, Alyssa burns a piece of toast while James silently contemplates killing her. His father, Phil, arrives home and is surprised to see Alyssa. He jokes that he thought James might be gay. Alyssa smirks, telling him she doesn't think James is straight either. Maybe he's asexual. On the rooftop, Alyssa asks James if he's ever slept with a girl. James decides confidence is key. He lies, saying he has. Alyssa, unfazed, tells him she'll be back tomorrow at 11, expecting to sleep with him. The next morning, James waits, prepared, knife hidden, ready to kill her. But Alyssa doesn't show. She's stuck at home, forced into helping with a family function. Her stepfather, Tony, offers her a drink, then touches her inappropriately. Alyssa looks to her mother, Gwen, but Gwen says nothing. That silence tells Alyssa everything. Disgusted, Alyssa decides to leave home for good. She grabs Leslie's old jacket and runs straight to James's house. She storms in, still fuming, and collapses onto the couch, shirtless. James silently reaches for his hidden knife. But then Alyssa asks, "Wanna run away with me?" James rethinks his plan. He agrees, playing along. Alyssa tells him to get his father's car. James discreetly pockets the knife. As they head outside, Phil arrives home. James punches him, steals the car, and drives off with Alyssa. As they speed away, Alyssa asks, "Are you scared?" James hesitates. "A little." Alyssa grins. "I'm not." James thinks to himself, she should be. They stop at a gaming arena. Alyssa plays enthusiastically. James remains blank. At one point, Alyssa leans in, Put your tongue in my ear. James, indifferent, does it. The manager sees and kicks them out. They go to a restaurant but realize neither of them has money. Alyssa shrugs. They dine and dash. Later, Alyssa gets mischievous, undressing James while he drives. The distraction causes them to crash into a tree. The car catches fire. James watches it burn, knowing it was Phil's biggest investment. They start hitchhiking. Eventually, a van pulls over. The driver, a middle-aged man, offers them a ride. Alyssa is immediately suspicious. Inside the van, the man makes a crude joke. James reassures him nothing inappropriate happened between them. The man laughs. I don't care what you do. I'm not a cop. He brags about his military past and how he's buying a battle dog. He offers to call James's mother. James lies, saying she's dead. Alyssa is shocked. You said she was in Japan. James shrugs. It's a long story. They stop at a diner. Alyssa insults the man's children, calling them potato faces. She storms out. James apologizes. He goes to the restroom. The man follows and touches him inappropriately. James doesn't resist. Alyssa returns and catches them. Are you gay? James, shaken, insists he isn't. He forced himself on me. Alyssa blackmails the man for his wallet. They take his cash and flee to a motel. James prepares to kill Alyssa. He takes out his knife. Then he hears her crying in the bathroom. He stops. Alyssa calls home. Tony answers. She asks for her mom. Tony cruelly tells her Gwen doesn't care about her. Gwen stays silent. Alyssa hangs up and asks James, "Hold me." James does. For the first time, he feels something. Meanwhile, Phil reports his son missing. The police begin their investigation. Alyssa decides she wants to find Leslie. James agrees. They hop a train. Along the way, Alyssa breaks into an abandoned house. Inside, they find disturbing photographs, proof the homeowner is a serial killer. In an effort to lighten the mood, Alyssa plays some music and starts dancing. Initially, James hesitates, but after some coaxing from Alyssa, he joins in. When Alyssa tries to get intimate with him, James points to the picture of the house owner, saying that he's watching them and they shouldn't do this. Alyssa, frustrated, calls him boring and walks out. Outside, she meets a black man who introduces himself as Topher. Alyssa remarks on how odd his name is. He explains that his real name is Christopher, but he prefers to be called Topher because he considers himself weird. Alyssa finds this appealing and impulsively kisses him, then invites him to join her. Meanwhile, James experiences emotions he has never felt before, a deep sense of discomfort growing inside him. He waits for Alyssa holding flowers, but she soon returns with another man. Alyssa tells James that she's going upstairs to do with Topher. For the first time in his life, James feels his heart break. He experiences a surge of emotions that he's been waiting for all his life. Despite the pain, he finds a twisted sense of gratitude toward Alyssa, believing that it was because of her that these emotions finally awoke in him. Downstairs, James starts rummaging through different drawers, checking things around the house. Suddenly, he comes across a camera and some photos, all belonging to the owner of the house. What he sees shocks him. Pictures of the man committing brutal acts of rape and murder against several women. Meanwhile, upstairs, Alyssa is about to get intimate with Topher when she suddenly thinks of James. She stops and tells Topher to leave. Furious, Topher calls her a slut and storms out. After Topher leaves, James goes upstairs to see Alyssa, but she refuses to let him in. James waits outside, planning to kill her while she sleeps. However, when she finally falls asleep and James sneaks in to carry out his plan, seeing her peacefully asleep softens his heart. He hesitates and decides not to go through with it. Instead, he lies beside her, gently touching her hand. It seems as though James is starting to develop real feelings for her. At that moment, the house's owner, Professor Clive, finally returns home. Seeing the state of his house, he immediately realizes that someone has broken in. Later that night, he returns. James, hiding under the bed, watches as the man locks the door and approaches Alyssa. James springs out and stabs him in the neck. Blood covers Alyssa. They clean the crime scene and flee. At a train station, Alyssa changes their appearances. She dyes her hair, cuts James's. Meanwhile, police find Topher's wallet at the crime scene. They bring him in. He gives them Alyssa's name. At a restaurant, Alyssa suddenly pulls away from James. She disappears. James waits. But she's gone. For the first time, James feels heartbreak. Desperate, he pays street thugs to beat him up. He needs to feel something. Then, clarity hits. He calls the police. I have information about a murder. Flashback to 11 years ago. His mother drives into a pond with him watching. In the present, James sits in the police station. He changes his mind. He tells the officer, "My mother was murdered." The officer, puzzled, lets him go. Meanwhile, Alyssa, now alone, steals again, and the story continues. James watches from the side, sensing Alyssa drifting away from him. As they continue drinking, a woman from Leslie's past enters the bar and calls him over. It's revealed she has a child with him. She demands new uniforms and books for their son, accusing Leslie of hiding while the police search for him. Alyssa, stunned, asks if Leslie is the father. The child confirms it, leaving her in disbelief. Leslie, overwhelmed, tries to avoid the conversation, but, frustrated, storms out of the bar. In a panic, he starts his car and accidentally runs over a dog. Alyssa and James, despite their reluctance, are forced to put the suffering animal out of its misery. Later, in his cabin, Leslie takes drugs. Watching the news, he sees a reward for capturing James and Alyssa. Tempted by greed, he considers his next move. Meanwhile, James and Alyssa bury the dog on the beach. As their bond deepens, a memory of Professor Clive resurfaces in Alyssa's mind, making her uneasy. She tells James they should wait. Elsewhere, Eunice receives a tip about Leslie's location from his girlfriend. Without informing Terry, she heads directly to the cabin. Meanwhile, Terry realizes Eunice is acting alone and warns her it's a mistake. At dawn, James and Alyssa wake up by the beach. Alyssa suggests they take Leslie's boat and escape to the farthest corner of the world. James agrees, and they head to the cabin for the keys. Eunice watches from a distance. Inside, Leslie laughs about the dog's death and mockingly asks for forgiveness. When Alyssa requests the boat keys, he refuses, revealing he knows they killed someone and that there's a reward for them. He claims he won't turn them in, but Alyssa doesn't believe him. Tension rises as Leslie scolds Alyssa, but James steps in. Leslie diffuses the moment, offering to make tea. As he pretends to prepare it, he secretly calls the police and hides his phone. Returning, he apologizes to Alyssa for not telling her about his other son, admitting he was ashamed. He reminds her he's her father, urging her to confide in him. Overwhelmed, Alyssa confesses they killed a man because he tried to assault her. James immediately senses something is wrong. He grabs a gun, searches, and finds Leslie's hidden phone. Realizing Leslie betrayed them for money, Alyssa, furious, grabs a knife and stabs him in the thigh. Just then, Eunice enters, stunned by the scene, James holding a gun, Leslie wounded. As Terry and the police race toward the cabin, Eunice tries to reason with them. She insists she wants to help, not arrest them. She tells James it's his 18th birthday today. Alyssa, surprised, says she would have gotten him a gift if she had known. Leslie, groaning in pain, warns them not to trust Eunice. Alyssa mocks him for calling the police yet pretending to care. Leslie insists he did it to protect her. Enraged, she kicks his leg, making him howl in pain. Alyssa then confronts Leslie. Did he really send those birthday cards all those years? Or was it Gwen? Leslie admits it was his mother, not him. The revelation shatters Alyssa. The father she had hoped for was never real. When he tries to explain, she silences him. Turning to Eunice, Alyssa asks if they surrender now. Will they be placed in juvenile detention together? Eunice hesitates, saying it's unlikely. Alyssa, resigned, apologizes, then knocks Eunice unconscious. James grabs the boat keys and they run toward the beach. As they reach the boat, James stops. He tells Alyssa she should tell the police he kidnapped her so she can walk free. Alyssa refuses, insisting they escape together. James, desperate, apologizes, then knocks her out. He runs toward the coast. The police arrive, capturing Alyssa. They open fire on James as he flees. As he runs, James reflects. He is 18 now. Only in this moment does he understand love, fear, and everything he had been searching for. The truth he had been chasing for so long finally comes to him. And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.